All right. The Two Towers, Book 3 of The Lord of the Rings, Chapter 5, The White Rider. So, in this chapter, we go back to Gimli and Legolas and Aragorn, who, as you remember, we left off with them. They were at the edge of Fanghorn camping for the night because they're going to probably have to go in and search Fanghorn just to find Merry and Pippin. And of course, a figure in white had showed up and scared the horses off, which they think is Saruman, which we do find out that that is Saruman, but there's going to be another person dressed similar, but this one will not be Saruman. But anyway, it is the next day, and they're looking at all the tracks and stuff, and it leads into Fanghorn, and so they go and they do come to the spot where Merry and Pippin met Treebeard, and Aragorn does say he found some very strange tracks there, which of course probably the footsteps of Treebeard, his footprints probably, because he from where he picked up Merry and Pippin and took off with them. And of course that figure in white shows up again, and this time they're going to attack him. But of course, he reveals himself to be Gandalf. No longer Gandalf the Grey, he is now Gandalf the White. And of course, he tells him, you don't have to apologize for wanting to attack me. There's really none of your weapons are going to be able to harm me anyway. Gandalf the Grey could be harmed. Gandalf the White is much different. That's why there was a change they made to the books in the Lord of the Rings movies. In the Return of the King, when he faces off with the Witch King, and this, of course, is the extended version. I don't like that change because Gandalf the White is, at this point, way different than Gandalf the Grey. And, of course, he then, answers some questions that they do have. And so the eagle that they saw that was watching over them, following them, was Gwaihir, the Lord of the Eagles. Gandalf had set him to go do so. And he does mention that he sat in a high place and strove with the Dark Tower. And Gimli's like, then you know about Frodo. How do things go with him? And Gandalf's answer is, I cannot say. He was saved from a great peril, but many lie before him still. He resolved to go alone to Mordor, and he set out. That is all that I can say. And of course, they Legolas mentions, oh well, Sam went with them, and Gandalf loves to hear that. And it is a good thing that he did go with Frodo because, as you know, Gollum is following, and well, him being alone, Gollum could probably sneak up on him, kill him, and take the ring, and that would be disastrous. But thank God that didn't happen. But when he says that he strove with the Dark Tower, at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring, in the breaking of the Fellowship, when Frodo is sitting on the Hill of Sight, and Sauron is basically beckoning him to come to him, and you do hear a voice say, take off the ring. That, of course, is the voice of Gandalf. He does explain that is him. And he does mention that the enemy does know the number of the Fellowship and that they had set out from Rivendell, but he does not know where they're going. He thinks they're going to Minas Tirith because that's what he would himself do in their place. He has no idea that a halfling is carrying his ring into Mordor. And of course they start talking about Saruman. And so they're going to have to leave Merry and Pippin where they're at and go deal with him. King Theoden's going to need them. The Winged Messenger is mentioned from the chapter of the Great River. That, of course, is one of the Nazgul on a flying steed, and I think I did explain that in that video. And then, of course, talks about how Merry and Pippin are at the ends. They will be fine. He calls Treebeard the oldest living thing in Middle-earth, which is rhetorical because he is not actually the oldest living being. We do know Tom Bombadil is older, and of course you have Eru, God, who created all things, is far older, but he's not in Middle-earth. He's outside of the world. But Treebeard is the oldest living Ent, and he has been around since before the sun and moon even, I think. Not pretty sure the Ents woke up when the elves did, and that was before the sun and the moon. Excuse me. Just ate dinner, so I'm burping that up. So yeah, he's just basically in the chapter explaining things to them. They ask about the Balrog. And he does say that he died, and that he went beyond thought and time, I think is what it says. In that so basically he's gone even beyond Valinor. He didn't go back to the Valar, who are the ones who set him to Middle-earth. But instead he went to heaven, to where Eru Ilúvatar is, and it's Eru, as Tolkien would explain, that sent Gandalf back. And, of course, so he comes back, and then he goes to Lorien, and they clothe him in his white robes and make this new staff for him. And he just, wanders towards towards the area the Fellowship is, and he's there when they're there when they break up. And so, and of course, they leave the forest, and, they get introduced to the Chief of Horses, Shadowfax, that Gandalf took, which Theoden did not like, and that is, yeah. And so they ride off to Edoras to go help King Theoden. But anyway, so there you go. That is Chapter 5, and I'll see you later for Chapter 6.